Right, so before we start, when I was doing the research for this video, I came to the conclusion that for every new skyscraper built on the Earth, no extra weight is added to the Earth because all the materials were already on the Earth. But if you make a new human, like make a new baby by doing naughty stuff in bed, then more extra weight is added to the Earth because the human wasn't there before, and it grows to make more stuff. So the Earth is getting heavier, but only by humans, not by cities and stuff, because that stuff was already on the Earth. They've just amalgamated it into a big building. Now, if you don't want a philosophical start to your day or whenever you're watching this video, then should have skipped that bit late. Anyway, does height matter? A question that if you ask females on Twitter, you'll be answered with yes, height does matter. And if you're a male, that is someone with an X and a Y chromosome, and you are under 183 centimeters, you are the scum of the earth and deserve to die. They will look down on you with utter contempt. If you ask this question to a Formula 1 driver or just a racing driver in general, they will say yes, height probably does matter, but for different reasons. But since you probably can't ask a Formula 1 driver unless you've got one's phone number for some reason, then you've just gotta trust me, I guess. I'm not a Formula 1 driver, but I have been go-karting, and I do play the F1 games a lot, so yeah, I'm the next best thing. Anyway, does height matter in F1? We're going to start by looking at the 2020 grid. Now, the tallest driver last year was Alexander Albon at 186 centimetres, or for my potential American viewers, that's 6.2 pigeons. Smallest driver, on the other hand, was Lando Norris at 170 centimetres, or for my potential American viewers, that's 5.7 pigeons. However, that is all changed for 2021. With Alex Albon going to DTM, the new tallest drivers are Antonio Giovinazzi and George Russell at 185 centimetres, or just under 6.2 pigeons. The new smallest driver is AlphaTauri's newest driver, Yuki Tsunoda, at just 159 centimetres, or 5.3 pigeons. He's a rather small man. Anyway, you don't need to be an Einstein, Galileo, Hippocrates, Tekashi 69, Kanye West, clever man, to realise that with extra height comes extra weight. If you're taller, there's more of you, and the more of you tends to weigh stuff. You can't really have more that doesn't weigh anything, because that doesn't really agree with the laws of physics and that. In 2015, the weight difference between the lightest driver Felipe Massa and the heaviest driver Roberto Merhi was 17 kilograms. Now, if Merhi had been carrying that extra 17 kilograms all of the time, how much slower would he have been? Well, at a longer lap like Spa's 7km lap, the difference would have been about 0.7 of a second. However, Monaco, a shorter lap, the distance would have been roughly half, about 3.5 tenths. Now, Manor, Merri's team, could have just made the car lighter to offset the difference, so the disadvantage would have been that great. But Williams, on the other hand, Felipe Massa's team, if he fell under the weight limit with him in the car because he's so light, they could have added ballast to the car in optimal positions, which would have perfected the setup and made the car slightly faster based on setup, not raw speed, but yeah. How great of an advantage weight of drivers has been has varied over the years. In 2009, when the early versions of the KERS hybrid system were introduced, only some teams could justify the weight penalty of carrying the KERS system. In BMW, they had to split this between two drivers. Robert Kubica was a heavy bloke and had to make do without KERS for the season, but his lighter teammate Nick Heidfeld had the extra power boost for 7 seconds a lap. But as of 2019, the rules have changed. Drivers and their seats are weighed separately, the limit being 80 kilograms, to the car, and if they fall under this, ballast is added just inside the cockpit to make it seem like the driver is heavy. So the penalty for being a heavier driver is much less than before. But let's move on to height. Is height a disadvantage? Well, being tall disrupts the aero. You probably don't need to be a clever bloke to realise that, maybe just watch F1 a bit and realise how important aero is. Now, you can see by this Mercedes onboard from Hamilton and Russell at Bahrain and Sakir the difference in height between the drivers and how big Russell's helmet looks in the onboard camera. The car was built for Hamilton, so it didn't fit Russell properly, hence he's so high up. Russell also had to wear racing boots that were one size too small, which yeah, fair play, George. You're now a contortionist managing to fit yourself into a tiny space like that. Apparently, above 178 centimetres, the deficit is 3/1000ths of a second per lap, which I don't know if it's true. I could find no reputable source with that information. It's just a number that I found, so don't quote me on that ever. So, to summarise, does height matter? Yes, height matters a little bit, but weight matters a lot more than height. But in sports car racing or endurance or just other closed cockpit stuff, height really doesn't matter because they're inside the car, so there's no way that they're going to disrupt the aero unless they've got to cut a hole in the roof of the car to fit their head through, which they must be really tall if that's going to happen. Same for endurance racing. All of that is closed cockpit, so height doesn't really matter. Weight, however, continues to matter, and it's the bane of every designer's existence. So that's the end of the video. Does height matter? Well, now you know. Thank you very much for watching. We've got a podcast, Yellow Flag Podcast, available on all major podcast providers. Go listen to it if you want. If you don't like it, fair enough, it's completely free. Leave us a bit of feedback on Twitter. Constructive feedback is welcome, and also bullying, that is also tolerated, but only if it is against me, not other people. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Good night.